So let's look at the situation with JFK. What happened there? Did Lee Harvey Oswald, on his own, go up to a window? Well, first he got a job there. He was actually working there in the Texas Book Depository. And he went up to the window, and this is the official story. He was waiting in the window. JFK drives past. John F. Kennedy. He drives past in his car with his wife and some other dignitaries. And he is shot in the face. Right? There are several shots, and you can watch what's called the Zabruta film and see it for yourself. The man gets shot in the face, and Lee Harvey Oswald is behind him. And if you try to shoot somebody in the face from behind, you'll find out that you can't. Bullets just don't work like that. But we've got a news report from the time, and it's a guy called Dan Rather who was on the television for decades. He was institutional in the United States, and he's talking about the Zabruta film, which is key evidence in the case, and he has been allowed to view it, and then he's telling the public what he's seen. So, Johnny, give us the news report, please, mate.
The films we saw were taken by an amateur photographer who had a particularly good vantage point just past the building from which the fatal shot was fired. The films show President Kennedy's open black limousine making a left turn off Houston Street onto Elm Street on the fringe of downtown Dallas. A left turn made just below the window in which the assassin was waiting. About 35 yards past the very base of the building, just below the window, President Kennedy could be seen to put his right hand up to the side of his head to either brush back his hair or perhaps rub his eyebrow. President Kennedy was sitting on the same side of the car as the building from which the shot came. Mrs. Kennedy was by his side. In the jump seat in front of them, Mrs. Connolly and Governor Connolly. Governor Connolly on the same side of the car as the president, and in the front seat, 2 Secret Service men. Just as the president put that right hand up to the side of his head, you could see him lurch forward. The first shot had hit him.
So, as you can see there in that clip, Dan Rather is telling the public the opposite of the truth. If you watch the Zabruta film, which you can, it's on YouTube. I'm not going to show it on the Power Hour today because it's graphic. Somebody getting shot in the face in front of the wife, and a lot of other people as well. So you might not want to watch it, but if you've seen it or you've seen the film JFK, they show it many times in the film. Oliver Stone directed it, and many times you see back and to the left, back and to the left. He gets shot in the face. But Lee Harvey Oswald was apparently behind him, so the story makes no sense from the very beginning. And Dan Rather in that clip is lying. He says that you can see his head move violently forward. No, you don't. You see his head fly violently backwards, the opposite of what he says. It's quite clearly visible that he's not telling the truth. So what's the lie from Dan Rather? That he's seen the film when he hasn't, or that JFK was shot from the back when he wasn't. He was shot from the front. See, the film was taken to, I think it was Time Life magazine. Private company kept that film for many years, so the public didn't see it. They had to believe what Dan Rather was telling them on the news, and say, right, okay, this is what happened because this newsman is telling us that that's what happened. In fact, it's the inversion of that. And around the same time, a lot of doctors who obviously didn't receive the script, they were telling the truth. And you can watch them, you can see them on YouTube, the doctors at the hospital talking about how, literally doing this, where he got shot in the head. They're literally saying, look, yeah, this is where he got shot. But by the time Dan Rather got back to the studio, they'd changed the narrative. And that's what had happened. he'd been shot in the back of the head because Lee Harvey Oswald was supposed to be behind him. So in my mind, either he watched the film, saw JFK get shot in the face, and was told to lie about it. Now it's a conspiracy. Just with that, it's already a conspiracy. Or he didn't watch the film, and he was just told what to say. Say you've watched the film and describe it like this. In either case, he's not telling the truth. That's demonstrable. So he's not a journalist, and he's not a reporter. He's not reporting what happened. So you have to ask yourself, what is his job? Because he is getting paid, but he's not getting paid to do what we think he's doing, which is reporting the news. He's getting paid to do something totally different, which is to tell everybody the opposite of what really happened. And that's clearly visible, as I say. So after Lee Harvey Oswald has successfully assassinated the most heavily protected man in the world in a totally impossible way, he leaves the area unobstructed. Nobody stops him. Nobody asks him anything. No questions. The police don't interfere with his movements at all. He leaves the area with no problems. So at this point, nobody's saying Lee Harvey Oswald. Nobody knew anything about Lee Harvey Oswald. He wasn't a suspect. Nobody's looking for him. Nobody suspects him. He wasn't under investigation for that crime. Nobody knew really what was happening. And he was able to leave the area. So he left the area. Now he could just go home. Go home, have a cup of tea, watch television and relax, because nobody was looking for him. But instead of that, he decides to approach a young police officer called Kyle Tippett in broad daylight, in the middle of the day, in the middle of the afternoon, in a residential area, and shoot Kyle Tippett in the head. Now remember, Lee Harvey Oswald didn't know John F. Kennedy, and he's just killed him. And now he doesn't know this cop either, and he's just killed him as well. But absolutely no strategic reason. And this must be a strategic thinker if you're going to eliminate the President of the United States. But instead of going home, he decides to commit a completely needless and illogical murder in broad daylight. And then when he's finished that, he goes to the cinema. Well, I've killed a couple of guys already today that I didn't know, so I think I'll go to the cinema. And when he gets to the cinema, he's got money in his pocket, but he doesn't pay. So he goes into the cinema for free. He goes in without paying, and he's seen doing so. And the people at the cinema who work there, I don't know what their security procedures were, but they phoned the police to say, look, there's a guy who's just come into the cinema for nothing. You're talking 1963, so I don't know, 30 cents maybe to go in the cinema at that time to watch a matinee. So they phone the police, and the police react in a very strange way, because during an investigation as to who has just assassinated John F. Kennedy, you would imagine that the police in the area would be extremely busy and that resources would be tight. But actually, just based on a phone call saying some man has walked into the cinema without paying, they sent, I don't know if it's 12, 14, 16, you can see for yourself on the internet, on YouTube, you can actually watch it, you can look at the pictures. Loads of police cars, loads of cops down to the cinema because somebody's gone in there without paying. So somebody made a very strange decision there. I'm going to, okay, on one hand, either a person or a group of people or persons has just killed John F. Kennedy, but there's a guy watching a film that he hasn't paid to watch. Let's send a large section of our police force down to that cinema to make sure this guy pays to watch this film. I mean, that again, this is one of the problematic elements. It's all problematic. It's not a good story. This is where the problems began for them, because the story's not good. Then they've arrested him for what? They've arrested him for going into the cinema without paying. Okay. So then they've got him in custody, and they put him on television a few times, make sure everybody sees his face. He's asked if he's killed the president. He says, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been arrested for that. They said something about a policeman, but I don't know what they're talking about. I need a lawyer. Can someone come and represent me? Innocent until proven guilty. And Wikipedia, you should be ashamed of yourselves, because Wikipedia will tell you that Lee Harvey Oswald killed John F. Kennedy, and that's a fact. No, it's not. Innocent until proven guilty. The man had no trial, no defence, no prosecution, no judge, no jury. Therefore, legally, he is innocent. He is innocent. But Wikipedia would like you to think that it's a fact that Lee Harvey Oswald is guilty. Not true. So after a couple of days of this, they're walking Lee Harvey Oswald through the police station in Dallas. And a guy called Jack Ruby steps out of the crowd with a gun, a revolver, and shoots Lee Harvey Oswald twice, quick succession, bang, bang, on live television. Again, public execution on television in front of loads of people. There seems to be a common denominator, a connector, a thread. Public execution again. Now Lee Harvey Oswald is dead. Jack Ruby didn't know John F. Kennedy and didn't know Lee Harvey Oswald. But he's somehow managed to enter a police station with a gun and execute the most high-profile prisoner in the world in front of 30 cops on live television. Right. I mean, obviously there are several problems with that. How the hell do you get into a police station with a gun under those circumstances? Why wasn't he protected properly, etc.? I mean, obvious common sense questions there.